Hi, welcome to the Gear Garage. My name is Zach, and this is my show about whitewater things. In today's episode, I want to talk about flying all of your gear and people for a Middle Fork of the Salmon trip into Indian Creek. Sometimes the river between Boundary Creek and Indian closes because of fires. That was last year, or this year because of landslides and log jams. And the only way to start your trip is by flying everything into Indian Creek. And it's difficult, it's challenging, but it's not that bad as long as you kind of have an expectation about what's going into it. It's going to cost you some money, it's going to take some work, but certainly doable. And a trip from Indian down is still an amazing trip and worth doing. So I want to share some video I took last week when we did a full fly-in with some thoughts. And at the end, I'll share some just quick guidelines or things that I think are particularly important. But before we get started, I want to ask, please like, please subscribe. It helps me get more viewers and helps me feel cool, and I would really appreciate it. So here we go. You'll start by dropping your stuff off in Salmon. Now, we work with Gem Air. There's other companies you can work with. I think Gem Air is great, and they're based in Salmon. So you drive your stuff on the airstrip. You'll need permission before you just drive on the airstrip, but once you get it, you'll come in, you'll unload all your gear, ideally right on the scale, because everything has to get weighed. This is a sweep boat. The sweep boat weighs about 500 pounds rolled. And so ideally you can go from your trail onto the scale, and it takes some time to weigh things. So please have plenty of time so you're ready to go and you can weigh everything and get it right. Here's a cooler. Coolers are about 200, 300 pounds depending on what you put on there. And it's a lot of work. You're gonna be carrying stuff from your truck onto the scale, on the scale into the ground, from the ground into the plane. And the pilots need help here, so you'll need to be here to help them load your stuff into the plane. The pilots can't possibly load this stuff by themselves, and they'll just tell you what to bring and when to bring it, and you'll fly into Indian Creek. Sometimes you can find other airstrips, but Indian's the common one, and it's a pretty cool flight. It's a backcountry airstrip. It's dirt, and you'll have this professionally flown plane land in the middle of nowhere, which is really exciting. Once you land, you'll want to give the pilots a hand unloading the plane. These pilots are flying in and out all the time. They can't unload and load all of our heavy stuff. So please be there to give them a hand getting the plane unloaded. And our goal here is to not mix up equipment between groups. It'd be really easy with all these groups here to have stuff everywhere. So try to make piles out of your stuff that's separate from other groups so they keep things simple. And again, the goal is to pump up a boat, put gear on it, and get it down the bottom of the ramp. And once you're ready to do that, you'll get to the top of the ramp and just get some help, people lowering it down to the bottom. And you'll see here we put a cooler, we put some weight in this boat. If you had to carry the cooler down separately, that would be a lot more work. And so I'd recommend having things in the boat. You don't want to overload it. Hypalon boats work great for this. I've heard rumors that urethane boats like Sotars and maybe Wings, maybe Moravias have problems with the ramp and the ramps cause holes. I don't know for sure. I do know a urethane boat does pretty well because we do this all the time. And the best way to get from the bottom of the ramp to the river are thwarts. And you can see here the boat's landing on raft thwarts. And these are thwarts you can buy. You can buy special ones of these made by Dib. But these are basically just thwarts. And if you have these, it's going to save you a lot of work. And you need about 4 of them. And you can see what we're doing here is just taking the back one, throwing it to the front. And this is a great way to get a heavily loaded boat. And this boat isn't that heavy. I've done this with heavier boats even. This is a 15-foot boat. We did this with our 18-foot boats this day with more weight in them even. This is a great way to not break your back by having to carry everything down to the water. And you'll see we have a nice spot to land. And it's really fun. Once you get the last one ready to go, you can just go ahead and toss it on into the river pretty fast. Here's another angle of the exact same thing. Now this is an empty boat. There's a frame on it. I'd recommend putting more weight in there because you have to carry this stuff down. This is lowering it down the ramp in a boat and through the thwarts is an easy way to get it to the river. All that stuff has to get carried separately if you don't do that. But a light boat's fine too. And your goal there is to get it down to the river and be ready to go. And you'll see, since everybody's launching here, there's a lot of boats and a lot of stuff. And so please be respectful of each other. So just to finish up, I want to share some thoughts about some guidelines I think are really important. And the first one is when you're working with the pilots and the planes, please be there on time. Please help them load. they don't expect to fly everything into Indian Creek in August. This is an additional load for them, and they have limited hours. So if you're late, you kind of slow them down, which makes other people that need to get flown in potentially get bumped or like cause problems with the air company. So please be supportive of the pilots and be there on time. Next, when you fly in and you're up on the airstrip, please try to get your stuff down to the bottom of the ramp in a timely manner. Don't pump up all of your boats and have a big mess, because there's 7 different groups potentially doing the same thing. And when there's congestion on the airstrip, that's actually potentially dangerous for planes that are landing or planes that are taking off, or just people in general. So ideally, you pump a boat up, put gear in it, put it down the ramp. Pump the next boat up, put gear in it, go down the ramp. Don't pump up all your stuff and slowly work. Please be methodical about not taking up too much space up on the airstrip. Next, when you get to the bottom, when you get down to the river, please be thoughtful with your group. Try to put all your group stuff together. There's a lot of different groups, so stuff can get mixed up. So try not to make a yard sale of your stuff. Get your boats in the water and get them out of the way where everybody's entering the water. Put your group's boats together if possible, and try to put your gear near there too. Just be thoughtful of all your stuff. And finally, please wash your hands. There's sometimes 30, 40 people camping here, and if people are not washing their hands, norovirus or other things can spread really quickly. And I know you probably all wash your hands in the real world, but sometimes on vacation you forget to. There's a hand wash down there. Please do before you eat, after you go to the bathroom. Please, please, please wash your hands. So that's it. Like I said earlier, like and subscribe, do all the things. If you have things to add, please add them in the comment section below. If you have questions or thoughts, I really enjoy having discussions in the comments section. And yeah, that's it for this episode. Thanks for watching.